Hello friends, so we're now into part 2 of our Naxx Wing series. Today we're covering Plague Wing, so getting right into it. This first trash pack that you see here, it's 3 ghouls and 2 slimes. The slimes cannot be taunted, so very often these packs, even though they're pretty simple, they're pretty deadly. And outside of this, there's really no other trash you have to worry about. So on this trash, just make sure that there's someone actually gaining threat on these back mobs, on the slimes. There's a single gargoyle patrol that goes to the front here. It will reset if it goes outside of the wing. Just know that both of these first packs of ghouls and slimes, they can be brought outside of the wing. They don't reset. And those are the mobs that people farm for Naxx trash if the mages are doing their AoE pulls. So just know that this is a fun little area to get comfortable with Naxx trash if you've never done the farming before. And that first gargoyle, it doesn't do a slime spit or whatever you call it, the gargoyle overtime damage. So there's not a huge pressure to kill this first gargoyle. The real pressure on these first 2 packs is these ghouls. They can be stunned, they can be disarmed, and I highly recommend it. You see me as the main tank here. Look how quickly my health goes from 11k to 6k when it's enraged. These things hit really hard when they get below half health. I really quickly went down to half health there, so um, just something to mention, this is a tank killer as well as DPS killer area if you charge in before people have threat, and low-key dangerous. So after this first pack, after the patrol, there's now one more pack of ghouls and slimes, and then we also pull in the patrol here. So this is now the second gargoyle patrol. It goes up to the very top of the hallway here and then goes back down. I was a little surprised that we pulled it here. I told Zert, Zert does a really good job as the hunter pool asking, hey, do you want me to grab this? And in this circumstance, they said, nah, we don't really need it. But I guess Dilf was just like barely slightly in range. You see some of the melee were hitting behind the mobs. So just be aware it does have a pretty big aggro radius. It's not a big deal just to kill this first gargoyle if it, happens to gain its health back or whatever. It's only one single. But the idea here in this area is that you kill this gargoyle, kill 1 or 2 more packs, and then you stop. So I haven't really talked about these gargoyles before. I think they're one of the main ways to check your level of DPS in Naxx. A good group, they're only going to get 2 stacks. So obviously we had the previous stack. You see how they both did the spit. And then our goal is to kill these gargoyles before the next spit happens. So at 35% there, you see that the first gargoyle stops attacking and it's starting to heal itself. That's when we swap to the other one, and we want to make sure that other one stops attacking in enough time that it doesn't do its spit. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, so we got a total of 3 on that first one. In a progression group that doesn't have world buffs out, you can pretty easily expect to get 6 stacks of this debuff each time that you fight gargoyles. And that to me is the base level of Naxx. If you can kill these gargoyles without anyone dying, you can do Naxxramas. It's really that simple, or at least Naxx Light. Maybe all of Naxx is a little bit more of a DPS challenge, but just keep that in mind as far as the level of power of your raid. How much debuffs do you have? It's just a good thermometer check, seeing where you're at. 2 to 3, maybe 4 is a solid raid that has good levels of DPS. If you're getting 6 stacks of gargoyles each time, just understand where you're at in that level of Naxx power. You can still clear the raid, but not quite as much pump. So just something that I'm always paying attention to in Naxx raids is how many debuffs we're getting on gargoyles. So again, you see on this last pack here, look at how we did it. We are basically cleaving them down at the same time, and our level of damage is high enough that they only spit once and then didn't spit a second time. That's the goal. 2 each time. I have seen in Giga speedruns where they kill it before it even spits, which is insane. Don't expect that really ever to happen. More likely, sometimes you get resists and that kind of stuff. But anyways, now the first boss. The key with this first boss is making sure that everyone's in the room. There's this line right here in the ground you can see. When you engage with Noth, there becomes an invisible force field right here that you can kind of see. But making sure that everyone in the room before you pull is really important. Just know that like you can all get against this wall here. Noth does like a slight patrol in this area, but if you're against the wall here, you won't just passively pull it and you'll be fine. The key to understand with Noth is you see this DBM timer here, the curse. As soon as that curse goes out, it's really important that all of the decursor people in the raid are focused on that. Here you can see we got down to like maybe 2 seconds left before a curse would have potentially gone out. If there's only one curse that goes out, it's not going to wipe your raid. You can pop a shadow pot, you can survive through it as long as the healers are really pumping. But if more than one curse debuff goes out on the raid, it's very likely a wipe. So this is one of those things in Naxx that you just have to respect, and you have to learn how to press your buttons, right? It's personal accountability, and especially in speedruns, it is really easy to have just one person screw up and screw up the raid, right? So in a speedrun, typically you'll see maybe 3 mages and a druid, or more safe would be like 4 mages and a druid. So a total of 5 decurses is like my base level. I want to always have at least 5 people in a raid that can decurse to make sure that if one person DCs or has issues, everyone else will be able to cover for them. If you only have 4 people in the raid that can decurse, you really have to be basically perfect. And I have seen it technically, 3 people could do it if they were like absolutely perfect, but at that point, it starts to get scary. Now I can go back and I probably have a catalog of maybe 20 wipes on Noth when it comes to decurse issues. It's one of those things that takes out so many groups. And some people will say, oh, just Restopot. Restopot on a 5-second rolling rotation, it removes a debuff from you. But in practicality, Restopots are just kind of rough, not super valuable here. So my recommendation is just save your potion cooldown either for Lip or a Shadow Pot. And why do I say Lip? Let's just go back to Noth here now, and you'll see at just a couple seconds here, the boss is going to reset and go to a different spot. That's why we have everyone stacked close together. Noth at some point just does a teleport and threat goes back to 0. And that's a common time for 1 or 2 people to die if the tanks are not on the ball. So right there you see it teleports as well as puts cripple. This cripple is a magic effect that really reduces how much you're able to output with threat and damage. So it's really, really important. As soon as this teleport happens, healers are instantly cleansing the tanks, the people that are trying to generate threat. Very, very important. And again, part of the reason that we're all stacked close together is so when this teleport happens, the tank can always make sure that they are in some way close to the boss as well as everyone else, right? There are these little ads that spawn. That's the other reason that we stay close together, is a lot of times if healers are out on their own, they're healing people, these ads spawn, the off tanks don't have the movement to be able to get over there and taunt and grab the ads. So Noth is not able to be taunted, but those little ads are. And really, it's not much more complicated than that. There is technically a second phase of Noth. If you don't have world buffs out, definitely likely you could see that. But you could see here, we still have 40 seconds. We've basically gotten halfway of the timer and Noth is dead. So realistically, if you have world buffs out, you're not really going to ever see that second phase. And again, this to me is like a big sign of your level of damage and your competency and ability in Naxx. On this boss and the next boss, if you're able to kill them before the second phase, the second stage of the fight, that to me signifies a pretty strong level of damage, of competency, and just you should feel pretty good about your ability to clear the rest of Naxx with the level of damage that you have. So now we're in the quote-unquote like suppression room area. There's one in BWL, there's one in AQ40, and now here's the Naxx one where these mobs just continually respawn over and over. So these beasts are the most dangerous when it comes to wipe potential. They do a AoE after a couple seconds in combat. You see we kill it here before the AoE goes. Oh, actually we didn't just quite kill it. So it's a proximity-based AoE. So if all the casters are far away, they wouldn't have gotten hit. But again, our idea is to always be running forward here in constant movement. So that's why a fair amount of people just took damage there for a couple seconds. It was just a pulse of the beast AoE. Other thing to mention are these bats that just charge and stun you. They're not too bad. But these little grubs, you see how we target them with markers at the start? Our goal is to kill those grubs before they do their slow, just so we're able to move quicker as a raid. So as soon as you get in combat with those grubs and the beast, there are reasons to kill them both. In a speedrun setting, you care more about killing the grubs. In a progression setting, you care more about killing the beast. Personally, I just always mark the beast. There's times in this area where the beasts patrol in a way that it's possible for you to get two of them at the same time. And again, in a progression raid group, this is where things can quickly fall apart. If you die in this area, it's really hard to res people. If you have deaths like around here in this first little area, my recommendation is to just back up and go back to Noth's room. It's not worth trying to move forward and summon and do all that stuff. Just back out, try and res people or have them run back in, and then go back in as a group. This area can be really frustrating and just annoying if everyone's not paying attention. Speaking of paying attention, this is another opportunity for you to wipe the raid. I have countless clips. We can go through some of them later of Heigan wipes that we're now watching. So in this area here, we're killing some of the ads as we're running in, and then after a couple seconds of being in combat, you're going to see the wall go down here. It's the same idea as Noth, where there's like this doorway that becomes closed. The problem is, there it is. So you see it turns green and it's not able to be moved through. The problem is if someone's AFK or DC'd out in that suppression room area that you were just at, ads are going to keep streaming in this area and they're going to probably wipe your raid. I've seen maybe 2 to 3 out of like 50 raids survive it, where they're able to burn down the boss and survive and get through the ad problem. But basically, if you have someone DC in this hallway or someone still in this hallway, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. As the raid leader, you need to make sure that all 40 people are ready to move in and that they actually moved in. And it's one of those things that like you can only do so much. There's some things out of your control as a raid leader, just like people pressing decurse. You have to hope that people actually press decurse. You have to hope that people are able to get inside this room. Once you're inside the room, notice how all the casters here are on this balcony or platform here, and they're trying to not be too close to the boss. The boss does a mana burn, so just keep that in mind. This is a fight that you don't really need to have full mana for anyways. I've seen this boss two-manned before, where it's a paladin and the main tank fighting for like 45 minutes, literally 45 minutes, and they kill this boss after the rest of the raid wiped. So just know it's not a whole ton of damage output going on the tank here. You can literally solo heal this, but the key is that you cleanse the disease. So there's a disease that's going to hit a bunch of different people, and as soon as it goes on the main tank, you need to cleanse it instantly. So you see here I get down to half health. It's not because I get hit hard, it's because I got the disease, I think. No, maybe I just get, no, that was a disease, yeah. Anyways, simple fight. There is this hallway here that people get teleported in. So if you're an absolute pumper DPS and you want to try and min-max and you don't want to get teleported, you can lip that teleport. So about 5 seconds into the fight, you'd press your invulnerability potion as a melee DPS, and you won't be eligible for the teleport. There is a second teleport in this part here, this first stage. There's going to be a total of 6 people that get teleported to that other room. So if you're in that second group, it really is just super unlucky. It's likely if you lip the first, I mean, it can still happen to you on the second one. So just unfortunate. I'm not really going to cover this area here as far as the hallway goes. Basically just wait for 6 people and all run together if you are a low DPS group. So again, the idea is that first you do Noth. Did you only have one phase on Noth? Okay, then you probably will only have one phase on Heigan. If you want to be safe, you wait for all 6 people and then you move forward, and once you get to the final spot there, watch the eruption go out and then get to the platform or whatever, get back to Heigan. Be aware of the eruption. It can basically one-shot you. It is nature damage, so you could put up a nature pod if you're worried about it. But again, my recommendation is if you know that you're not going to see this second phase, just have your 6 people wait once they get teleported and just chill where they are. What often happens is the first 3 people try and start moving on their own, and there's mobs in this hallway. It's really tough to go with only 3 people. You need to wait for the 6. So that's Heigan really in a nutshell. Pretty simple fight. I'm trying to think of other things to mention, but there's not much. On the Horde side, totems are your nightmare in that suppression room. Just do not put totems down at all. Again, that's one of the main reasons that we see wipes on this boss, is because there's totems in that back suppression room area that you were just running through after Noth. But yeah, that's really about it. So now let's talk about Loatheb. Loatheb may have like the most intricacy to it. Basically, it has a ton of health. It has so much health because you have increased attack damage on it. There's going to be these spores that spawn, and one group after the next is going to go to those spores and hit the spore so it explodes, and you get a debuff that really increases your damage. It gives you 50% crit. So this is a fight where warriors will typically wear like their rec set, focused more on AP rather than crit, because with world buffs you're going to have such a high percentage of crit that you're just wasting like maybe 20-30% crit. So that's why you have more gear focused on strength and attack power instead. And that's kind of unfortunate for rogues. If you're a dagger rogue, you probably don't even want to get the spore. You have such a high percent crit anyways that you're just going to want to stay on the boss the whole time for better uptime. That's kind of the one exception when it comes to DPS. But otherwise, you see each time these groups are going back and forth. So it's just something that you want to organize and establish before the raid of which group and who's part of what group, that kind of stuff. We keep it super simple in this raid. I have different styles for each raid. In this one, that's more of like a pickup pug style. We just do it group based. So we have the mages go first always because we're worried about the ignite. So the mages go, and then since there's only 4 mages, we send 1 warrior as well, and then we just go from there. Group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5. There's a total of typically 6 spores in the rotation. So that 6 spore might not have everyone included, just because of the number of DPS. Typically it's only like just 2 warlocks in that group. So anyone that missed a previous spore could go and get that 6th one, and then it just resets. So typically, as a DPS, you're going to get a total of 2 spores. So note this gameplay here. People get really frustrated on this boss if you take the spore when you are not supposed to. So as a ranged character, Xurt is aware of what's happening around him, and he moves away from that spore so that when it explodes, he's not going to be in the wrong group. Anyways, it looks like no warlock got that spore, so then the next spore happens. Kang just grabs that one, and now the next group is going. So that's kind of the DPS side of thing, just like a general rotation of DPS getting spores. And then at some point you make the call, no more spores. It's actually a loss in DPS for you to go to the spore, so that's what we do at about like, and we'll make the call here at like 35%. So it said no more spores, just focus on boss. Even though you may have like a little bit of extra crit for a bit, it's not worth it to lose that uptime. So now on the healer side of things, you see this, actually that's just the average mana, so he's just looking at raid mana here. Healers get a debuff. They can only heal once per minute. So me as the main tank, I have a flask set running at the start that's really chunky. This is a really good time to use a flask set. The idea is that for the first minute while I have the flask set rolling and I'm in full mitigation gear, I don't really need to worry about getting healed. And that means that those healers, they can feel less pressure to heal on time, and it just gives us more breathing room. So once that diamond flask has run out, then it's just one healer after the next using their biggest healer spell. So making sure that you have your trinkets on, like a ZG trinket is really good. Later you're going to get Eye of the Dead from Naxx. That's a really good trinket to use here. Something that makes your biggest spell more powerful or higher chance to crit. So inner focus, or sorry, inner fire, whatever the spell is, I forget. I think it's inner focus. Anyways, stuff to make you better at your healing is your focus. When you're not healing, notice how all the healers here are using their smite spell, why not just do extra damage because you can do nothing else? The key though is the positioning of the healers. This boss can parry haste, and you're going to see here throughout the fight it targets someone with mana that's a healer. I don't think it ever can target mages. It's going to target priests, druids, paladins, shamans, and that's why we have all of our healers behind the boss. So when the boss turns, it doesn't turn around and hit behind and look at one of the casters behind us. It's always going to just look at behind the tank, right? That way we're sure that 20 melee are not going to parry haste the boss. I've seen it really often where tank goes from 100 to 0 because of parry hasting. I think that's really about it. Just some things to mention here as far as horde goes. In my raid, we do things a little out of order. Typically, you're going to go spider into plague. And because of that, a lot of times you see here where healers are helping out in the back on spider, they're still getting people off walls. So just be aware if you're a tank that you have your healer with you as you start plague wing, because especially in a speedrun setting like this, notice how some of the healers are in the back while the rest of the raid is moving forward. It can be a little bit dangerous. Making sure that tanks stay alive at the start of plague is very important, obviously. So in this speedrun setting, just notice what they're doing here, upcoming. They're going to kill some extra trash from A-bomb wing. So 4 mobs are going to run in here, and this is kind of scary. If the raid is not properly set up for this, this can cause a lot of deaths. We'll talk more about these A-bomb mobs when we go over our next wing, which is A-bomb wing. Maybe I'll do Death Knight wing next, actually. I'm not sure, but either way, just know that these golems here, they stun and they cleave. So notice how no healer is, or caster is near this corner here. The idea is that you split these up. You have 2 and 2. You have all the melee using free action potion, and you're able to just blast these adds down while you're waiting for your debuff to drop from the gargoyles. So the idea is you kill some gargoyles, debuff drops while you're killing these, and then you can continue forward and have basically 0 downtime in a speedrun setting. Other things to mention, totem usage. We talked about never using it in suppression room. We'll just note here where the totems are going out in Heigan. Notice how at the start of Heigan, all the shamans are running and putting their totems in the middle of the room here. They're not worried about the mana burn or the explosion for the first couple seconds, so they all put their totem in the middle here where it can affect the melee for the entire kill. And yeah, that's really about it. Not a whole ton more to say. Shamans can do damage as well for the Loatheb part when they're not healing. I kind of question seeing all these chain heals sometimes. Chain heal is a little ratty here in terms of like the only person you really care about keeping alive is the main tank on Heigan. There's not really much damage going out other than that. They have their disease cleanse totem down, so that's really about it. And this is a good example. You see how these guys get teleported and they don't try and run back. They start to get ready for the upcoming boss because in just a second here the fight will be over. So that's really it. Let me know if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, that kind of stuff. Love doing these kind of discussions. I guess last thing to mention here is I didn't talk about how to survive Loatheb better. They pop a shadow pot not for Loatheb, but for the trash after Loatheb, because they're going to kill it so fast they don't even get hit by the damage that goes out. Throughout Loatheb, there's ticks of damage that happen reliably, inevitable dooms. So 2 minutes in the fight, they know they're going to get hit by a doom. They're so confident in their raid damage that they're not going to get hit by that doom that they're not even worried about it. But yeah, on Alliance side, just put Judgment of Light up, and you as a melee DPS, if you're in a world buffed raid, you don't have to worry about having a shadow pot on or a nature pot, that kind of stuff. You're just going to passively heal so much from Judgment of Light that it's really, really stupidly OP. On Horde side, maybe be ready to whipper, or like I said, pre-pop a nature pot so you don't take the little ticking poison damage that you see here. But at the same time, on Horde side, I think they're often using the poison cleanse totem, so it's not really even a factor there anyways. Anything else? Let me think. It's really not that hard. If you have problems in Plague Wing, it's probably more underlying issues. It's just a lot of basic coordination and basic accountability. I see some raids, they split up the raid. They'll have all the healers in one voice chat and all of the melee DPS and maybe the tank in the other. I don't recommend that. If you have problems with communication, that's kind of a bigger issue, right? And a lot of the times when you split up the groups, some people don't move properly or they don't move back afterwards, and it just leads to confusion. So I always recommend that you keep all 40 people in voice comms for this part. You have one person that's calling out spores, which is not super important, and you have one person calling out the healing order. That's super important. Making sure that the healers know who's healing next. That is all that really matters on Loatheb. GG.